So here we have our first timeline, which is the Jewish and Greek timeline. 3000 to 1200 BCE is the Helladic Age in Greece. 1200 to 323 BCE is the Hellenic period. As you can tell, some are highlighted in orange. Those are the Jewish, while the black ones are the Greeks. 1100 to 800 BCE, the Greek Dark Age. 960 BCE, Solomon's Temple, the first one, which was later destroyed. 750 BCE, Polypier. 722 BCE, Assyrians took Israel. 587 BCE, Judah fell to the Babylonians. 553 to 330 BCE is the length of the Persian Empire. In 538 BCE, the Persian king Cyrus defeats Babylonians and allows Hebrews to return to Jerusalem. 515 BCE to 70 CE, Temple number 2 that they built. 500 to 221 BCE, the Warring States of China. 499 BCE, Athens wins in the Battle of Marathon. 480 BCE, Persia defeats Athens. 479 BCE, Sparta beats Persia. 479 BCE to 429 BCE is the Golden Age of Athens. 469 to 399 BCE was the lifespan of Socrates. 338 BCE, King Philip II takes Greece. 2 years later, in 336, Alexander takes the throne, and in 326, Alexander the Great, dies. And then we end with 323 BCE to 30 CE is the Hellenistic period. 200 CE, the Mishnah is written down. Previously, it was only oral stories. 400 CE, Talmud number 1, and then 600 CE, Talmud number 2. And I'm sure I'm mispronouncing that. And here we have timeline number 2, which is the Roman timeline. The monarchical period is 753 to 509 BCE. The Republic follows in 509 and lasts until 27 CE. In 471 BCE, the plebeians win their representation of the SPQR, where the patricians, which are the wealthy, have their own senate. In 387 BCE, the Gauls defeat Rome. 264 to 241 BCE, we have the Punic Wars. In 218 to 202, Hannibal of Carthage versus Rome. 49 BCE, Caesar takes Rome. 5 years later, in 44, Caesar is killed. 43 BCE, revenge for Caesar and the Second Triumvirate. Octavian becomes Emperor Augustus. 27 to 476 CE is the Roman Empire. In 14 CE, Emperor Augustus dies. Until 180 CE, the Pax Roman period. 181 to 284 CE, the post-Pax Roman period. Sorry about that. I was looking at the other thing. 235 to 284 CE, more than 20 emperors, only one died of natural causes. This thing is like freezing. 284 CE, Diocletian. He claims divine right, Emperor Diocletian. 325 CE, the Council of Nicaea. 306 to 337, Constantine. In 313, he has the Edict of Milan. In 380, Theodosius makes Christianity, the new Emperor Theodosius makes Christianity the state religion. It's technically Nicene Christianity, which is different. Then 306 to 476 CE is the end of Rome. The East continues on as the Byzantine Empire. Sorry for misreading those. Okay, and the last timeline kind of throws together a lot of different stuff. The orange is the Muslim timeline and the Ottoman timeline, and then we have the black is the European. All right, so 570 to 662 CE is the lifespan of Muhammad. In 622 CE, there's the Hijra, which is the Islamic year 0, and that is the traveling Muhammad and his followers from Mecca to Medina. In 632 CE, Mecca and Medina are Islamic, so a mere 10 years later. Then in 632 to 661 CE is the first four caliphs, and the Umayyad rules end in 750 CE, and they begin about here. The 8th to 9th centuries, Charlemagne linked the church and state. He claims divine right. At his coronation in 800, he is the first Holy Roman Emperor since the fall of Rome, and he also connects most of Western Europe. Then in the 1200s, Mongols invade, and the later Abbasids, who ruled at the Umayyads, I'm probably destroying their names, they are overthrown by the Turks. And then 1304 to 1374, with humanism, is Francesco Petrarch. And then you have in the 1420s, Portugal begins spreading from Medina to the Azores. And then you have Caravel, the 15th century Portuguese ship. And in the 1440s, we have Johann Gutenberg with the printing press. And then 1453, the Ottomans take over the Byzantine Empire and rename the capital, which was Constantinople, to Istanbul. And then in the 1460s, you have Portugal and slaves in Africa. So what that means is Portugal starts the African slave trade, pretty much. And then at the same time, 1450 to 1615, European exploration and conquest is those 200 years. And then in 1469 to 1527, you have Niccolo Machiavelli, which was civic humanism, and he's famous for the book The Prince, although he wrote a lot more other work. 1500s to 1700s is called the early modern period. 1478 to 1535, Thomas More, Christian humanism, and he's famous for his work Utopia. And then 1500 to 1886, 12.5 million African slaves made it to the New World. Millions more died. About 50% died before they even reached the ships. And millions upon millions were displaced within Africa. And 1517, we have the Reformation with Martin Luther, which gives us the big four churches: Roman Catholic Church, Protestant, Calvinism, and of the Western, I should say, Calvinism and the Church of England. All right, 1683, Ottomans lose power with nationalistic movements supported by Europe. The 16th through 18th century also has mercantilism ruling Europe. 1720s to 1730s is the golden age of piracy. 1744 to 1797 is the lifespan of J.G. Stedman, whom assisted in the racialization of Africans through really fake, horrible, unrealistic drawings that he sold the European public on. And 1783 is the Song Ship. And the Song Ship was one incident recorded of numerous incidences where a captain and possibly his crew as well, figured out that they would get more money from insurance than they would from actually selling slaves. And so in the Song Ship, they push off over 180 Africans into the water, letting them drown. And they wanted to collect on the insurance. The insurance held out, knowing it was fraud. But eventually courts ruled that the insurance company had to pay out, and thus they did. And then we skip really far ahead, just as like a little blurb. In 1914, the Ottoman Empire ends. Pretty much in 1914 with World War I. Because they are forced by the British into alliancing themselves with Germany, and of course, Germany lost. So, yeah, that's pretty much where we end. So, here's the giant timeline. So we have our first, Jewish and Greek. Second is Roman, and then we skip not quite a bit ahead, but relatively ahead, and do a lot in at the bottom one of a brief Muslim and Ottoman and European timeline. And that's it for Western Civ.